Well, as you might have guessed, we're in the desert. I'll try to give you a few clues on how to work it. Well, your first job is to find the gold, and how do you do that? Well, look for a wash in the desert. This is a wash. And start walking up it. And we're looking for indications. And right there we have it. Black sand. That's iron ore. And typically gold is intermixed with it. So we take some of that and we pan it out. And I've done it for you, sure enough. There's little grains of gold in it, about half the size of a grain of salt. And look at this. Turns out we have hard pack, old river channel, where the river's just pounded it in here, and you can tell it's river channel by the round stones, rounded river rock over the ancient bedrock, which they call caliche. See that? And there's where your gold is coming from. Now I want to see if I can find out any bigger pieces in here. I think I can both agree there should be no metal in that bank. So it was put in here millions of years ago. I'm up here at 5,000 feet, and that's the old river channel. Now I'm using a Tesoro Super Track today, and I'll show you how I set that up. I've got the sensitivity all the way to 10. I've got the discrimination at minimum. I've got my soil in normal for now. I might have to flick it to black sand or alkali. I really don't know if it starts chattering. Let's turn it on. I'm going to ground balance it a little bit, and then we're going to go over and scan this hill, and if I get any hits, it's got some kind of metal in it that's big enough for this to see. And this is similar to a Fisher Gold Bug 2, so it'll detect extremely small pieces of gold. Sure enough, got a hit. Another hit. And this is the size gold I'm getting. Typically called a picker. And if you were dredging, this is one you can just barely big enough where you can pick it up. Now with this size gold, there's several things we can do, and let's look at the methods we can do with a metal detector or without. Now without a metal detector, after walking up the wash and finding the black sand and finding that there's gold in it, and then walking further up and finding a level where there's a cut big enough where you can see that there's round river rock over the caliche, what we start doing is we simply dig the material out, and we're going to filter it into a bucket and physically pan it out and figure out what size gold we're looking at. And once we've done that, we can vacuum the material out into a vacuum cleaner and bucket it, take it back to process, or we can simply dig and screen into a bucket and take that back to where we've got water to work, a gold wheel, what have you, to screen it further and work it out. Now that's what I'm doing here. Now if we're working this bulk material, we can save ourselves a whole lot of consternation by simply buying a screen down at Campers World or Home Depot or Walmart or wherever. Just a simple campfire grill. Set it up on a couple of rocks. See how that filters out the material right then? And then we come along with that, scoop it into our bags and take it home for our gold wheel or pan or sluice or however we're going to work the bulk material later. Then we've got red layered ground, which in ancient times this was mud. And if you'll note, the round river rocks come down to about here and they stop. Well, in a river, when the gold is working, the gold will tumble along on the bottom with the rock, and it'll stick right here in this upper crust. Now usually below this from here to here there's no gold, or very little gold, but we'll have a very rich layer here of this upper crust where it's literally come down and stuck to it. And this is very hard. So our last step here would be that you'd want to scrape this with like a snow shovel or something like that, or literally, if you have a metal detector, detect the hits and pry them out. Now gold is all through here as well, but where it's really concentrated is on this crust. And this is what the old timers would go along and they'd scoop this stuff out. Okay, very good material here. Now the last thing we're going to do is scan this with a deep detector, a pulse detector, and it's shooting a long wave into the ground, unlike the VLF detector used earlier, which is pulsing a little small wave like that. And this will shoot way back, and I'm looking for anything deep about the size of my ring, if there's any lunkers in there. Whereas the little small detector, the VLF, will detect the little shallow, small stuff and give me an indication if there's gold there in the first place. I'll show you how to set one of these up. And what we're going to do is I'm first going to go to slow. It's going to give me 4 beeps. It tells me that the battery's fully charged. Then I'm going to go up and down, let it ground balance. Then I'm going to go to fast, difficult ground, pump it 4 times, and let it ground balance. Then I'm going to go back to lock and lock in the soil that it found and make sure it's smooth. If it's not smooth, I'm going to bring this discrimination up to where that tone is smooth. Hopefully it'll ground balance with no discrimination at all. I'm going to turn my threshold up to where I want it, and I'm just going to scan the ground real slow, and it's shooting a wave in that's really slow. It turns off and listens, so you can't be waving this around like that like you can with one of those little VLF machines. Let's take a listen and see if we hear anything. So we got a lunker in there someplace. A high-low tone is gold. If it gives you a low-high tone, it's something else. So we're going to keep digging here. And go back to that. Every time. Now the pinpoint with this, we bring that center spoke down because that's hot. So that's where it is. Now as you can see, I'm stacking the bags that I got from the wash, and I'm going to take them back to Florida. Now this is extremely heavy material, and I've got 14 here thus far, and I'll stack as many as 60. I know that we're going to get 2 penny weights per bag minimum, and from then on it becomes a simple mathematics to figure out how many bags we need to bring back to pay for the trip, or kid through college, or a new septic system, or whatever it is. And that's the way you have to do it when you're a small-scale prospector. And what she's doing here is classifying our material down for the wheel. I'll have number 12 working way into the night.